It's about time to give you guys an update about what is happening in Blatten in Switzerland. And something is happening, a lot is happening. And guys, Lake Blatten is still there and there are some interesting developments. For those of you who don't know, Blatten is the village that has been almost completely covered by this tragic glacier collapse that led to a catastrophic landslide. You see it in the background. And it was an absolute tragedy, but they have evacuated in time. Sadly, one shepherd was lost because the evacuation area was not calculated large enough. So he was in his shed with the sheep when the catastrophe happened. And now, what is going on now? They want to resurrect Blatten and they're working hard on that. The access to Blatten is like a forest path. They call this their emergency road. So this is where they're trying to get to Blatten, but I want to show you that picture before we go on. This is Lake Blatten. So this is not a real lake that used to be there. This is a lake that formed after the catastrophe because the river was dammed for a while until it started to slowly make its way over the debris. But still, some areas are still flooded, and this is Lake Blatten. It's basically still there and hasn't gone away too much. So we still have homes underwater. And of course, now it's winter. We have snow. It's getting cold. So this is the latest picture that we have from there. So what the headlines are: Swiss village has been swamped and now it's snowed under and they're slowly digging their way out. So what is happening, guys? It's interesting. And I'm very surprised they have made a little bit more progress than I thought, and also about what they want to do with the village. And an interesting example is a hotel that was highly affected by this because it was in Blatten when this devastating landslide happened. It's a 3-generational hotel, and the hotelier's response, his name is Lukas Kalbermatten, sums up a mindset of many of the over 300 residents of Blatten. They decided not to leave their little valley in the Lötschental in Switzerland for dead. They have decided to rebuild and try to see that it can come alive again. And they are taking steps to rebuild, guys. I want to show you this. And it's not that easy because this landslide has left a trail that's about 2.5 kilometers, that's about 1.5 miles wide, and 100 meters, that's about 330 feet tall, and it has spread out on both sides of the valley. So here is an updated picture. If the snow is covering it, you can't really see where that landslide really is, because all you see is obviously, oh, that's a mountain valley that is covered in snow. But when there's no snow, you see the debris, and that there was a road, there was a village, right? There was infrastructure. So imagine a massive landslide that only takes about half a minute to do such devastating destruction, coating that valley and village in dust and debris. And we had more than 90% of all the homes and infrastructure in the village destroyed. So what you see in Lake Blatten and around is some of the structures that have miraculously survived. And what the residents say is that a lot of people have been, of course, emotional, but they didn't get too much emotional. They were quite realistic, and the emotions, they came later after the incident, 3 or 4 days later. And the residents say, had they lost more people, many might not have wanted to rebuild Blatten. So we're talking about the Hotel Edelweiss in Blatten as an example. And if you look at the website of the Hotel Edelweiss, you can see it's half sunk. How they say it's like a pea soup green pond that was created by the disaster, Lake Blatten. And what they have done is they have worked together with other families and they have set up a temporary hotel at the summit of a gondola lift in the neighboring village of Vila. That's one of the 3 villages in the valley where most of the Blatten residents have relocated to, by the way. So they're very productive, right? So they're continuing with their business with a strong intent to rebuild their hotel. Because for the tourism industry and for the residents that live off that tourism industry, that disaster was a disaster, a catastrophe. And now a lot of tourists want to come back to the valley, maybe because they want to see the landslide, but they also want to go skiing, hiking, whatever. And they say, now it's a catastrophe for the tourism industry because we do not have enough hotel beds because everything has been buried by this landslide. So the residents say the most important thing for us to do is something quickly, and they have done so. What exactly have they done in recent months? So there were work crews on site. They have stored electricity and telecommunication lines to the Blatten area. They have used heavy machinery, backhoes. They have dug a drainage canal to get the water flow under control. They have cleared high roads that lead into Blatten. So that allowed some exiled residents to briefly return to collect some belongings from the whole homes that were alongside the valley that were spared by this landslides. Some even used rowboats to access the attics of their inundated homes. So they had a chance to get into what was left of their homes to get stuff out. But also people lined up to claim items that had been found by cleanup crews. They have tried to catch everything that was floating into the water. Basically, a few weeks right after the disaster, they started doing this. So people were able, and that's good, to recover books, family photos, and some heirloom articles. One woman even was able to recover her wedding dress, and that's kind of beautiful inside that tragic story. So what we hear from the construction coordinator in Blatten, and he said that around 400,000 cubic meters of rock and ice remains unstable on top of the mountain. So that means that could come down as well. So you don't want to be down there doing restoration and cleanup work and then more of the mountain is coming down on you. So they have to be very, very careful. It seems the threat is not over. And a few months ago, I showed you videos that more of the mountain was coming down, smaller landslides. So everything is still in motion. That's why he says the work was delicate in the warmer summer and the fall months. But now we have snowfall and cool temperatures, and that is actually helping to solidify the rock and the ice overhead. And that is actually lowering the risks. But of course, if the ground is frozen, it makes digging harder and debris removal harder. In the summer, it's raining there quite a bit, so the rain lubricates everything. That's why the risk was so high that more of the rocks would come down, more of the mountain would come down, the kleiner Nestorn. So right now, they're telling us the movements on the mountain are declining, but they're saying we're looking at next spring with a bit of a concern, because then the whole process will take place the other way around. When the snow melts, then a lot of water gets back into the rock and lubricates it, and then comes the rain in the spring. This is the number here. They expect residents to be back in Blatten by 2030. That's a long time. So they say they need several years of cleaning work, followed by construction of the new village, right? But cleaning, they need to do that first. And you see how much rock and debris and glacier remains is there. In the meantime, these villagers and also much of Switzerland must brace for the new reality that stuff like this could happen again and more often in the mountains. There's several other villages that are under threat. I will follow up with this for you guys. Please hype, like, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video if you click in the end screen here. Bye-bye.